So just a few housekeeping things before we get started. There will be opportunity for questions at the end, at which time you'll have the chance to unmute yourself if you want to just come off and ask questions. But if you have questions throughout, feel free to drop them in the chat. We will be, as you just heard, recording today. So if for whatever reason you have to leave and you are, maybe missing a piece of the presentation, or if you just want to be able to look back on it later, we will make sure to send it out to you. So as folks are coming in and getting settled, I'm going to go ahead and screen share. Today, we're going to be talking about your brand. We're going to be looking at it from the lens of your professional and personal brand. Okay, so establishing and maximizing your brand in LinkedIn. So first, I'm Olivia McCants. I'm the Assistant Director of Career Services for Bloomberg. Some of you, I believe I've had the opportunity to meet, and some I have not, but hopefully we'll have the chance to connect in the future. So I really want to focus in today on how you can get the most out of LinkedIn. But first, in order to do that, I want to touch on how you want to actually set yourself up for a successful brand. We are in a time now where many people are building connections through social media. Individuals are kind of building out from maybe their traditional career. You may have your own business, or maybe you just want to promote yourself more within the profession that you have, or how to best navigate it. So that's what we're going to be touching on. And the very first thing is going to be establishing your brand. What does that look like? How do you do it? And then how really can you just make the most of it? So first, what really is the brand? So here, your brand, a lot of people probably have an idea of it. When you think about a company, you're probably thinking about their messaging, the services that they offer. But that brand really essentially is what people are thinking of you when you're not around. It is the impression that you're leaving upon people. It is the mission that maybe you have for yourself, or the work that you're doing and how you're communicating that out to people. And a lot of times people develop their brand by looking at their purpose, or what is the purpose of the work that they're doing, right? So it's that reason behind why you do what you do. What is your intrinsic motivation, right? That kind of internal force that is pushing you to continue to do that work. And then how do you express that to people, right? How do you bring people into your brand? How do you make them want to be a part of what you have going on? So really, the entire time when we're talking today, I want you to keep in mind that you are the brand. When it comes to promoting yourself on social media, especially LinkedIn, you are the one that you are trying to capture individuals. You're trying to, get them to have a better understanding of who you are, as you're navigating, as you're connecting with people, all the different components that make up your professional identity, and why you're just doing the work that you do. So with that, I want to address the brand building blocks. So there are 4 ways in which you would want to establish your brand. You're going to want to identify what your brand is. Who are you? What is your story? What are you trying to communicate? What do you stand for? Then you're going to want to build it, right? So how exactly do you take the things that you identified and how do you build that up, right? How do you package that? And then how do you promote it? How do you get that package out? How are you sharing it to people? How is it going to be communicated? And then lastly, how to maintain it. So what does that look like forward? Is your brand always going to look the same in the next 2 to 5 years? Probably not, but it may. How can you work on improving yourself or areas of growth? So we're first going to look at identifying the brand. So when you are going through and kind of just considering what is your brand, what is your personal messaging that you want to share out, you have to consider your purpose. How do you contribute, right? Or how do you want to contribute? Maybe you don't necessarily know, but you want to take some time to consider, well, what is my contribution going to look like? Do a self-assessment. Consider how you thrive, or how can you improve, right? What works really well for you? What are some things that you need to work on? And then think about your end goal. So again, kind of going back to what the brand is, it's what people are thinking of you when you're not present, or what they're saying of you, right? What messaging are you leaving behind? So how do you want others to view you, right? That kind of goes back to, if you can think about how you contribute, maybe you want them to view you based on your contribution to the work that you do. Then lastly, write some targeted goals, right? So this is going to lead you into how you build your brand, but really kind of thinking about, What are some of the things that you want to establish, or how do you want to establish that presence? What does that look like for you? So this is how you can identify what your story is. Then next, you want to look at building. So you want to develop your story. So what that can look like is learning how to storytell. If you ever heard anyone, or like if you've watched a TED Talk, people who can really captivate the minds and the attention of people are ones that people just, they want to hear from. They want to listen to them. They want to connect with them. So thinking about, you are the brand, this is your story, you've identified it. How do you want to capture people, right? Is it going to be through social media? Are you developing an elevator pitch for yourself? Are you utilizing this through networking? Maybe your storytelling looks different based on how you are connecting with people. And then you want to refine your skills. So we kind of talked about that identifying piece of what are some areas that you can improve in. Well, looking at building your personal brand, you want to move forward with professional development, consider your academic training. If there's anything that you're like, okay, I want to contribute in this way, but how do I expound upon that? Or how do I get there? Refining your skills is definitely going to be a means of doing that. And then creating a bio. So what is your story, right? Who are you through a professional lens? And we'll kind of work through this and what this looks like in LinkedIn, because a LinkedIn bio can look very different than other types of bios that you may use, or for the different types of platforms. And then adapting your story, right? So considering how to present your story based on the platform. So how you might express yourself on Twitter will look very different than Facebook, which will look very different than LinkedIn. A lot of it has to do with how the platforms are going to operate, right? It's also going to have a lot to do with the individuals who are actually tapping into those platforms. So your audience, how are you engaging? Some of it also has to do with some of the restrictions. With Twitter, you only have 140 characters. So you have to capture people, you have to tell your story and do it really with a very kind of quick way, versus LinkedIn, you have more opportunities to kind of share things out, and you don't necessarily find yourself limited in that way. So it's really kind of leveraging the way in which you're going to be developing your story. Then promoting. So now you're telling your story, right? You've identified, you've built it up, and now you really want to share it out. So after you've kind of thought about how you want to adapt the story, you're identifying which social media and how does it operate? What does that look like? This may require you to do a little bit of market research, honestly, and looking at articles. And you may have a general idea of how different platforms work, but not necessarily how you can make the most out of each one and be able to leverage it. And then it's going to be important to know your audience. So if you think back to how you want to contribute, typically there's something connected to that. Is there a group of people that you want to connect with, or a certain community type? Why are you doing the work that you do? And what does that look like as you're engaging these individuals, right? Who do you want to engage? Are you looking for people to collaborate with you to support the work that you do? Are you looking to build connections so that you can maneuver up further within your career, so that you may have more resources and means to support the work that you do? So really kind of just asking yourself, who do I want to engage with, right? And why do I want to engage with them? And then growing your network, considering how you can increase your professional connections. There are many reasons why you may want to increase them. A lot of times people may think about increasing it when they're looking for opportunities, which is a really good reason to develop and expand your network, but you can grow your network at any point, at any time of your career. And it's going to be something that's really beneficial when it comes to promoting, because as you connect with more people, they may also be the ones that are going to be promoting out your story. A lot of times we learn things by word of mouth. We learn about people, we learn about resources by people that we're talking to. So as you grow your network and you're able to kind of tell your story because you refined it and you've identified it, you also have other people who can be that voice for you in rooms that you may not even ever be in. And then improving your influence. So how do you continually support others and cultivate change? So at some point you have to consider, okay, so I've reached a certain place in which I've built up my brand and I'm sharing it out, but how do I continue to go about this? Are there additional things that I may need, right? Or what other ways in which can I bring about change through the work that I do? So then the last one is going to be maintain. So updating your story. I think this one is probably, I would say, the second most after identifying, because you can't start if you haven't identified. But to maintain your brand really means that you want to stay motivated. Going back to the idea that you are the brand, right? No matter the work that you're doing, you are really kind of thinking of, what do I want to leave in the minds of others, right? So remembering your purpose and kind of sticking to the basics. Sometimes when it comes to the professional branding or even personal branding, we may find that we're extending ourselves in a lot of different ways to do some of that promotion. There's so many different types of platforms that we can be doing this on, and it also sometimes can be time consuming. And sometimes you have to kind of take a step back and go back to your contribution. Why are you doing this? Or what is it that you actually want to do? And are you still connected to your initial why? If not, you have the ability to change that, because it is your story and you are the brand. So building a skill is something that can also be helpful. Investing in yourself and taking care of yourself, right? So your own professional development, by taking care of yourself, that could also just be taking a step back. Again, you are the brand. So if you're not taking care of you, it's really hard to kind of promote yourself and connect with individuals. And then making changes is necessary. So as I spoke about with going back to the basics, if you're finding that your purpose is no longer the same in the work that you're doing, you can make that change. Don't limit yourself, right? So if you want to make changes to your brand and your messaging, you absolutely can do that. And then continuously developing connections. So as you will see over your professional career, there are going to be many different individuals that you're going to be able to kind of have relationships with. And they may serve you in different reasons or different spaces, and you may be able to do the same for them. So just being open to continuously developing those connections. Okay, so we talked about identifying what your story is, but how exactly do you do that? So to be able to identify your story, what it really is going to come down to are your beliefs, your values, your passions, and your superpower. So our beliefs are the concepts that we hold to be true. So these are assumptions that we have about the world, right? These are things that through our own lens that we have kind of come to gather this sort of information and how we may see things. Now, our beliefs definitely can be influenced by other things, maybe how we were raised, our own culture. But then you also have values. So the ideas that you hold to be important. What really matters to you, right? What is going to be that thing that kind of um, has an effect on how you speak with others and the actions that you take. Our values can be formed from our beliefs. And then there are your passions. So when you think about what your contribution is, this may stem from your passion, it could stem from your values, your beliefs, or it could stem from all of them, right? Your core interests, things that really mean something to you, things that make you feel like that I have to do this. It is fueling my purpose. This is something that really is I'm deeply passionate about and that I love. And then lastly is your superpower. Now, a lot of people may not have necessarily considered this component, but a superpower simply is a talent. It is an innate thing that you have that you're really good at and that you feel like adds values to others and how they engage with you. And your superpower doesn't have to be anything that is like really, really huge, right? It could be something that you do in your day-to-day life. Maybe you are really good at communicating with people. Maybe you're really good at seeing people and meeting them where they are. Maybe you're good at empowering people and making them feel like they can take on things and making them feel encouraged. Maybe you're good at anticipating needs or being able to see where problems are that others cannot see. These are all things that, may come up in your day-to-day life, in your personal life, in your professional life, whatever it may be. But just consider, what is something that you really excel at doing it. And that's going to help you as you work through the process of identifying what your story is. So then we have building. So when it comes to LinkedIn, the way that you want to build yourself one way is going to be creating a tagline. So I have different brands here. And of course, these aren't like actual people, they're companies. But the nice thing about tagline is how it supports the brand. And in this instance is you. So how does your tagline reflect you? Tagline are those things that are going to stay in the minds of people, right? So that's why it's really nice to have one. So if I were to say, like, like a good neighbor, most people would think State Farm is there. And that's really the whole point of a tagline. It is a very quick way to get out your messaging and be something that people will remember, right? They'll think of it when they see the logo, when they see, the name, or see your name without even necessarily seeing anything else attached to it. There's something that may come to mind, or there's some service that they may think of that you provide, or there's some way that maybe you're working in the community, or things that you've done as a public health professional that will come to mind for them. Well, how do you develop that? The 3 C's of taglines: make sure it's catchy, that it's clear, and that it's concise. You want it to be something very quick and easy, something that people, they have no question about what it is and what it relates to, right? It's not really confusing, it's not a riddle to them. And then also that it's concise, so it's quick, something really quick that will stay fresh in the minds of others. Okay, so tagline to headline. On LinkedIn, if you're familiar with LinkedIn, if you have a page and you've taken the opportunity to kind of build out your page, you've probably seen that there's the headline right there, right? So tagline, when it comes to LinkedIn, essentially your headline. So this is basically, again, what do you want people to think of you at first glance? The tagline is probably one of the most powerful things on LinkedIn. And I say this because this is the only other thing outside of your name that when you make posts and when you're active and do things on LinkedIn, that will show up, that people will see. This is what people will see in addition to your name before ever even going to your page, which means that your headline could be what brings people to your page. So you want it to be captivating. You want them to have a reason to click on your name and to explore more, to learn more about you and your brand that you have crafted and spent so much time on developing, right? I have 2 different examples here. Again, if you're familiar with LinkedIn, you may notice that people will have their actual position title. And there's nothing wrong with you having your position title as your headline. In fact, when LinkedIn was first established, that's pretty much what most people did. But there's been a shift in LinkedIn. And LinkedIn has definitely kind of transitioned in a way of being able to bring people in and engage them, and not necessarily having your standard position title out there, but more so presenting yourself as a person, right? It's something that I like to call professional personal, where it's a little bit more personal, feels a lot more relaxed and relatable. And it intrigues people. It makes people want to learn more about you. Because so many position titles are similar or the same across the field that you work in or the organization that you work for. But what are you, or not what are you, who are you outside of that title, right? There's more to who you are, your brand, and the work that you do. So this one, project manager, public health professional, increasing low income populations access to sustainable housing and food. This is a very quick way of capturing what it is you do and the essence that you do it in, right? This one has the actual position title, project manager, and then another lens in which they view themselves, maybe a little bit more broad, as public health professional. So they found a way to include this, but then also kind of expand on it and really bring people into the work that they do very quickly, letting them know this is who I am and this is what I do. The second one, empowering people to strengthen their professional identity, no matter the career path. So they haven't necessarily included their position title, which is fine, but they are telling you what they do, right? And going back to the idea of that superpower, maybe empowerment is something that they feel like that they are uniquely qualified to do, right? That they are really good at talking people up, providing them with information, and encouraging them to be able to take on these different feats themselves. Okay, so I just have some examples for you of what this could look like. So this is very similar to the first one that we saw. So founder at Octo Leads, helping your business get more leads on LinkedIn. Again, he's giving you what his actual title would be. And then also kind of just telling a little bit more about what he does, but it's very quick, very concise. And there aren't a lot of questions. Just simply from this, I haven't looked at a resume, I haven't gone to other sections, but I have a bit of an idea of who this individual is, or at least what it is that they're doing. Here's another one. So this is an example that is closer to the second one that I showed you, empowering people to change their lives, right? How might he do this? This one does have a little bit more ambiguity to it, but it's also nice that it is broad because he may consider himself as someone who can help people change their lives outside of the scope of the work that he does on a day-to-day basis, right? Outside of the career path that he's on, or maybe he's forging a new path for him for himself, where he has the career field that he's in, and then maybe he also has an additional business or something else that he's working on. And so he feels like this is representative of himself on the whole and not just the day-to-day work that he does. Okay, so we've talked about the building blocks. We've talked about how you could identify your brand. We've also talked about how you would want to build that. What exactly does that look like? Now I really want to get into maximizing your brand. And what does that look like specifically for LinkedIn? A lot of maximization for LinkedIn is going to be in the promotion piece. How are you marketing yourself on the platform? The first thing I want to do is kind of provide you this breakdown of the difference between a resume and a LinkedIn profile. Sometimes individuals may think that they are the same or that you should, copy everything from your resume and paste it into your LinkedIn. And while you absolutely can do that, there's nothing wrong with doing that. But there is a way in which that you can utilize LinkedIn that doesn't necessarily read like a resume, where you can kind of maximize or expand more out on the things that you do because there's a little bit more freedom in LinkedIn. It isn't like a traditional document where there's a particular framework that you want to stay in. Now, of course, there are sections in LinkedIn, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we look at promoting. And they give you prompts and ideas of things that you can put in there, but you don't find yourself necessarily needing to have to limit your space that's there because you're trying to stick to either one page or two-page resume. There are recommendations that you can actually ask people to give you for your work, right? It has more of a relaxed tone. It's that professional personal, as I shared, that LinkedIn provides, where it's where they kind of come together and meet, where it definitely is professional and you are there to network and connect with people, maybe even find opportunities. But on the other hand, as well, it gives you the opportunity to show yourself as a person, right? On the whole. So promoting through LinkedIn, these are some of the things that I recommend doing when it comes to your LinkedIn profile. So writing a summary of yourself. This is pretty much going back to the idea of that bio or the about section. It's where you can kind of showcase what you stand for. This is that identifying piece, right? What pushes you, what motivates you, what skills do you have, what do you want people to know about you? And then your relevant work and education experiences. So you could change this regularly. In fact, I recommend that you do so. This will be similar to a resume as far as the things that you include, but you don't necessarily have to have bullet points in LinkedIn that are talking about your experiences and the things that you did unless you absolutely want to. And then of course your relevant skills. This is going to be able help you showcase, other things that you've done. It's going to showcase you more in your professional identity and for people to have a really good understanding of what your talents and your strengths are. And then requesting recommendations from your connections. So this is actually a very new piece to LinkedIn. They probably started doing this, I would say, in the past 3 to 4 years. And so a lot of people don't know that this is something that is accessible to them. I highly recommend it because it's nice when you're going through a LinkedIn profile and you see recommendations that are coming from individuals that someone has worked with, maybe a place in which they volunteered or a mentee that you've had. It's really a good way to just capture more about you within the profile. So headline, we talked a little bit about this, right? This is a way in which you can maximize the headline. So I introduced you to the headline in general and what that looks like. If you wanted to truly maximize your headline, you can be a little bit more specific. You can quantify what your components of your tagline, who you are, and what you do. So this first example, again, they have, what exactly that they're doing. They have their position title. They have kind of what they're working on, and then they really hit you with an important piece of information. They're driving growth from 10,000 to 50,000 users in 8 months, right? And then that sales pitch comes in without spending a dime on ads. that sentence alone may make someone just really kind of perk up and want to know more. They may want to learn from that person. How did you do that? How is that even possible? Which may bring them to want to connect with them, send them a message on LinkedIn. It's a means of, again, drawing people in, but this does it in a way where it's a lot more specific. It's a bit of a sales pitch where you're really saying, hey, this is something that I have been able to do, and it's unique, right? Then this other example, very similar, where it's giving kind of that information, the project manager as far as their position title, product development, that is the work that they're doing and what they're currently in. So they're project manager doing product development, and then increasing cross-functional team productivity by 45%. So what you may notice here is the idea of quantifying the experience. The first one talks about, 10,000 to 50,000 users. This one is talking about increasing productivity by 45%. It is something that's going to attract people and get their attention. And it's going, again, to make people wonder, well, how is that possible? Or how did you do that, right? It's a really good way of putting yourself out there, but maximizing as much space that you can on LinkedIn, and sharing as much information about yourself, but doing it in a very concise way. So here are some examples of this, of other headlines that people have. You'll see different ones here. So the first one, seeking summer internship. So if you are currently in school and you are looking for like a practicum opportunity, if that's where you're at in your degree program, maybe that's something that you can put in your headline. If you're someone who's had multiple different type of careers, and maybe you're making a pivot and you are currently in school for public health, that's also something that you can capture within your headline to be able to talk about multiple aspects of your professional identity, right? So this person, they have the second one, global supply chain management student, future supply chain specialist, enrollment specialist, and then USMC veteran. So they are speaking to something that they've done in the past, but then they're also talking about future, right? So this is what I am aspiring to be, and they do it in a very assertive way. Future supply chain specialist, right? They are confident, and that is who they're going to become. So what this could look like for you is future public health professional. Maybe it's something a little bit more specific. Maybe you're looking to work in international health, or maybe you're looking to do work in mental health, and you want to capture that very specific component. You absolutely can do that in your profile. And again, it's going to exude that confidence, right? That you know that you're going to be in this industry and that you feel like that you have the ability to do it. And then the last one, machine learning, data scientist, and analytics manager at Nike. So this one is going to connect more so to the last two examples that I showed you in the previous slide, where they talk about solving problems at scale. 170 million members. So this is that quantifying piece. All three of these work as a headline. It truly just depends on where you're at in your own career, or how you want to project yourself and how you want people to think of you. Okay. So then the next thing with promoting is including featured activities. So this is also something that is relatively new to LinkedIn. What this allows you to do, it allows you to showcase things that you've done. This can be an article that you've written, a publication that you have. Maybe you volunteered abroad, or you studied abroad, or even worked abroad, and you have pictures from your time there of the work that you did. Maybe you're doing some humanitarian health work, and you want that to be captured within your LinkedIn. The featured section is going to be the next thing that people see after your about, right? So it's fairly high up on your LinkedIn profile. A person would only just have to scroll down a little bit and they would see it there. If you think about a resume and how you want to tailor your resume and show things that are going to be most important to what you're applying to, think of the featured section as something that you want to show that is going to be most important to who you are and how you want to be captured within this particular platform. So again, it showcases work samples. You can pull this from your profile. This can be posts that you've made. Maybe you made a post about your time doing study abroad. Maybe you made a post about your practicum opportunity, and you can just select that and make it a feature. Or it could be things that you don't necessarily have on LinkedIn yet. If you've attended a conference and you have pictures from there and you want to upload that, again, a published work that you may have, and maybe you have a link directly to it, whatever it may be, I highly recommend utilizing this because this is, again, going to help you maximize the brand that you have within LinkedIn. So here's an example of what that could look like. So what you see here is the About section, a little bit of information kind of telling this person's story, and then you see the feature. So down here, this person actually has really capitalized on LinkedIn, and they've wrote some think pieces. So LinkedIn actually allows you to write some articles. I do think that this is more so if you have the premium, but even if you're not, producing any articles, again, it's just a matter of showcasing your work. If there are projects that you have led while you're in school, if you've served, as a research assistant, and again, you've been able to capture this in any type of form, you can put it up here on the featured section, and it's something that people will see right away. Again, it's all about creating and producing that brand, right? So something that's going to be an additive to the brand that you've already established. Okay, so then the next piece is going to be shifting from story to storytelling. So there are many different ways in which you can capture your story. We talked about this when we think about how do we identify our brand. Well, we have to know what exactly our story is. So a professional bio is this first example that you see here. Professional bios are usually going to be what you may read before there's a guest speaker that comes in, or what someone else may read off, right? It is a summary of who they are, the things that they've done, or the things that they currently do. Then you have the professional profile. Profile is typically going to be on the resume. It is a lot more succinct, if you notice. It has a lot more of that technical language that's going to probably speak to whatever position the person is going to be applying to. So the difference here, of course, besides the actual length of them, is kind of the way in which they capture the story of this person. It is the same exact person. It is just how you're going to tell the story and for what means you're actually telling it, right? Are you giving off a bio, or is this going to be for your resume? For LinkedIn, this is going to be very different. While you can use a professional bio, you also can capture people in a more professional, personal way. Here's what that can look like. So if you're going to be shifting it from the story to storytelling specifically for LinkedIn, what I've highlighted here is the first two sentences of this person's about section. Pursuing a passion requires authentic discovery of yourself, while unearthing your purpose may push you to see beyond the passion. As a higher education professional working in service to others, this notion guides my values and engagement. So based off of these two sentences, you're learning a little bit more about this individual. Maybe you've already looked at their headline. That's what's brought them to, or that's what's brought you to their LinkedIn profile. And now you're kind of getting a little bit more of a look behind the curtain, so to speak, to see more about that headline. What really is the work that they do, right? What do they stand for? What matters to them? How do they do it? This is a way of kind of being able to tell your story more so on your terms. It's not as fixed. You don't necessarily have to think about staying within the lines of a professional summary and sticking to a more traditional type of scope. And I consider this to be professional personal because it still is capturing the professional identity of this individual, but it does it in a more relaxed way. It's not necessarily telling you about their personal life or their relationships or anything like that, but it is quite informal. It's going to capture you, it's going to bring you in and make you want to read a little bit more about who they are. And it may actually make you connect with them. And so that's something that you want to be shooting for when you're maximizing your brand in LinkedIn, is giving people a reason to connect with you so that you can develop those relationships. This is another example. This one is something that may be a little bit more catered to you all as individuals who are still currently in school. Again, going back to that assertiveness and that confidence, and not only where you are, but who you believe that you are going to become, right? Why do people want to take an interest in you, right? Why might they want to connect with you? So this person is saying that they are a future lawyer and lifelong humanitarian. 4 or 5 very simple words, but it makes you want to read on and learn a little bit more about them. What does it look like for them to be a lifelong humanitarian, right? How do they actually do that work? How do they see themselves as a humanitarian? So looking at this, going down to the third paragraph, it says, I plan to graduate with a double major in political science and psychology. These concentrations have provided invaluable insight into the civil rights, constitutional, and humanitarian crises in today's world. I hope that my philosophy and skills will lead to a greater sense of social equality. A really great way of capturing who they are and what they want to do. So they told you, about the work and the things that they're currently learning and how it connects to their passions, right? So they told you about their passions, and then they're telling you a little bit more about how they want to contribute or what they feel that their purpose is. So that's what you want to leave with the individual who is coming to your profile. Be able to capture your story in a way that makes them want to either take an interest in you, invest with you, connect with you, just have you in their network in general. Okay, so promoting, I'm going to go through the different sections after these that are kind of more along the lines of how you may present information in LinkedIn. You could do it along the kind of traditional way here with the experience section. This person has kind of captured more so about the company, and they go in to talk about what exactly that they do. Some individuals will just have the organization that they worked for and the time that they were there and the location. They may not have all of that information. What I recommend is that if you are currently seeking opportunities, to put more information in as far as previous work that you've done. It doesn't necessarily have to be bullet pointed. It does not even need to be long, but maybe a quick, 2 to 3 sentence summary of the work that you've done or the volunteer experience or whatever it may be. Because if you are connecting with people for the means of getting an opportunity, you do want them to have a better picture of the work that you've done and be able to show your capacity and your impact to be able to say, hey, I can do this moving forward for your organization or when I'm, connecting with you. And then the education section, this is a little blurry here, but if you can see, they talk about the coursework that they've completed. They've talked about, how they've leveraged some of the things that they've done while they were working on their degree. So it's not just about the degree in and of itself, them and how they have, kind of maneuvered through the degree program. They developed a wealth of knowledge in nonprofit management, grant writing, social networking, news media, activism, all the different things that kind of came out of their undergraduate experience. It is okay to share more out than what you necessarily did as far as your academic training, right? Again, this is going to the idea of you are your own brand. So what else have you done? What else have you engaged with while you were working on your degree program? Maybe you were part of a professional organization. Maybe you were part of a student organization. Maybe you were simultaneously volunteering and had the opportunity to kind of look at what it was like to be working towards your degree and then also kind of supporting some of the things that you want to be doing professionally. And then volunteering as well. So this is going to be very similar in the way of experience. And I say this because volunteering is an experience in and of itself. Paid experiences don't necessarily or aren't necessarily the only types of experience an individual can have. So you want to think about this in that way as well. Well, if you're looking for an opportunity, to just include a little bit more there as far as the information goes. If not, you don't necessarily have to do that. You can just, list the organization and the time frame in which that you were volunteering. And then skills and endorsements. So this is something that's been on LinkedIn since they first created LinkedIn, but I think that it's really good to kind of go back to this and kind of filter out skills. The nice thing is that they give you the opportunity to have individuals endorse you and for you to put in your skills. But sometimes when you have too many skills on there, or maybe they're not as relevant to what you're looking to do or how you're looking to express your brand, or even an opportunity as far as employment that you're looking for, it kind of can just become white noise and it's not as easy for someone to decipher through them. So definitely updating these when you feel like you've honed a new skill, or just focusing more so on the ones that you think are going to promote you and yourself as the brand a little bit better. And then there's recommendations. So recommendations is what I shared earlier that I believe is one of the newest additions to LinkedIn, but it's probably one of the best additions that they've made because it gives you the opportunity to have other people's experiences with you, or in this case, with the brand. And so that when people are coming to your page, again, going back to the idea of them wanting to connect with you, maybe they want to contribute to your overall mission. Maybe they want to help you improve within your career, help provide you with resources, take you on as a mentee, or whatever it may be. These are going to be some of those things that are going to give them a better outlook on who you are, right? Who is the brand? What is your professional identity? You very well can reach out to individuals if it's someone that you've worked with, a previous supervisor, volunteer supervisor. It could be a faculty person. It could be, someone who's also a colleague, any capacity that you can think of, but they've been able to have an experience with you, and speak to your work, speak to who you are as a collaborator, right? As a colleague, how you communicate with others, or just the types of work that you do, I think is a really good thing to have on the profile. You certainly can reach out to them through LinkedIn, and then LinkedIn also allows you to send them a direct link to provide their recommendation for you. So then lastly, there's courses on here. So you of course want to include the courses that you feel like are the most relevant. These don't necessarily have to be your academic courses. So they're going to be courses that are going to add on to your professional identity. Any additional training that you've done, maybe it's a certificate program that you're currently in, you want to make sure to include it there. And then there's a few other sections. I have not necessarily broken them down, because I wanted to stick to the most pertinent ones here, but you absolutely can promote yourself through the honors and awards section, projects that you've done, especially currently, like being in school. If there's any projects that you have worked on, you want to make sure to capture it in that section. Languages, if there are other languages that you are fluent in, or even if you're just learning, so you're at a beginner level, you can add that in as well. And then the professional organization. So again, that could be a student organization, that could be a professional organization like APHA that you may be a part of. But all of these are ways in which that you're going to be promoting out your brand and really kind of maximizing who you are, what you stand for, and that story that you want people to know about you and that you want them to remember about you throughout your LinkedIn profile. So what I would just like to leave you with is kind of just the 10 tips of if anything that I said today that you remember are these 10 things to be able to define your brand, right? Consider your superpower, right? Your specialty. What is a unique talent that you have? Tell your story the way that you want to tell it. And then creating, you can create a blog or personal website, but I really more so would think about capturing it through LinkedIn. Some individuals, if they have both their career and then maybe they're expanding out their career and doing other things, they may have their own blog to kind of contribute to that as well. Building out your communication skills. So LinkedIn is an amazing way to get started, but getting comfortable with having conversations with individuals, meeting with them, whether it be in person or through LinkedIn, and kind of talking more about yourself and the work that you do and the work that you want to do or the support that you're looking for. And then participating in other forms of social media. LinkedIn is definitely one way to do that. But you can get familiar with Twitter. A lot of people use Twitter now from a more professional landscape. It used to be mostly just about the social networking, but you can do more and you can expand yourself in that way as well. And then building your network out as much as you possibly can. I would also say, as you start to expand yourself, when you are building out your personal brand, you may find that you need to go back to the basics. You may have to actually take a step back and say no to some things that are kind of being thrown your way and go back and ask yourself your why. What is your purpose? Has that changed? And if so, then do I need to alter my brand? What does that look like? You always can go back to the drawing board and think about how you want to identify your brand. And then overall, just doing good work and living out your values, staying true to yourself, no matter which way you choose to promote your brand, but whatever it may be, that you are sticking to the core of who you are. These are just some resources. I will make sure to share out these slides for all of you all as attendees, so that way you can actually go through and look at some more LinkedIn resources when you're thinking about wanting to maximize yourself there. Any questions? If you would like to come off mute to ask questions or put them in the chat, you certainly can do so. Okay, well, it looks like there's no questions, and you are welcome, Shai. Thank you all so much for joining, for attending the first day and the first session of our Winter Intersession Career Development Academy. Again, as I shared, I will make sure to make these slides available. And if you do have any questions at any point in time, I'm just going to leave my email right here in the chat for you all, so feel free to reach out.
Hey, Olivia, a few people did raise their hands to ask questions.
Oh, okay, go for it. I didn't see any come in the chat, but if you want to unmute, please do.
Yeah, thank you for such a great presentation. I noticed that you said that, mention a lot of your accomplishments that you want to mention. I do want to ask, how far back can you go? Like, for example, I also went to community college, which started in 2016. So, like, would that be relevant?
Oh, absolutely. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's it, go ahead.
Yeah, so with LinkedIn, as I shared, it isn't as formal as a resume. If you've ever gotten support with your resume, you've probably heard that, things that aren't as relevant or things that go back maybe past 5 years or so that maybe you might want to remove from it. And you don't have to do that with LinkedIn. Again, when it comes to branding, if these are going to be things that you feel like are going to really highlight and promote yourself in a very good way, absolutely include it on your LinkedIn profile.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? I have one that came through the question and answer. Would you recommend having a LinkedIn premium? So I would say that it depends. It depends on how you're looking to utilize LinkedIn. If you are trying to grow your network and, there are some individuals who will start a business that maybe is a little bit parallel to what they've done throughout their career. And so they're really looking to promote themselves on a kind of a new and different scale. Then definitely you'll want to have LinkedIn Premium because it just offers you more ways to do that. And it provides a lot of different resources in which you can do that. You can connect to more people. You can reach out without necessarily having to be connected to someone. For the means of like if you were job searching or maybe you're just getting started with brand development, you don't necessarily need to have LinkedIn Premium to take advantage of the many different things that they have there for that. So it's really just going to depend on how you're utilizing it. Any other questions?
If you raise your hand or put something up, just go ahead and unmute. Go ahead and ask your question.
Sure, I have a question. Thanks so much, Olivia. That was very helpful. If we work on our profile, when you send that information, can we set up an appointment with you to kind of so just look at our profile and give us some feedback, or would that be someone else?
No, so that is definitely a service that we offer. I will share for the next couple of weeks through the Career Development Academy, we won't be able to do appointments and drop-ins just because a lot of our focus and efforts are towards this. But as of third term, we will have more information available about that. So definitely at that time, be looking for ways that you can connect with us.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, well, it doesn't look like there's any more questions. So again, I just want to thank everyone for being here today. Leave you with a little bit of information on how you might be able to connect. And then we look to see you at the next session.